Caravan departs after the roast.
Oh, for the love of the Lord of Light, Lionel, stop tampering with my scripts! Look, what happened at Ashford was a tragedy, and we should not speak lightly of it. Still, sick burn though. But what did the realm lose when it lost Baelor? A lot. An awful lot, actually. But also, not quite as much as everyone seems to think. Before we begin, if you'd like to support the channel, you can join our Patreon or use the Amazon affiliate links in the description. We earn a small commission from qualifying purchases, and we've linked the comics and books featured in this video. You can also join our Discord to continue the discussion. Now back to the video. Valar was right. Baelor had the potential to be the finest king of the lot since Aegon I, though I would personally argue Baelor would have actually been better than both the sister-fucking conqueror and the needs to justify his sister-fucking conciliator. But that's just my opinion, do with it what you will. Baelor is essentially Ned fucking Stark, but with the correct name and gods behind him. Enough said, really. We could probably end the video here, Tom. But as we all know, I do love a ramble, so let's continue. Maekar is also right in saying this.
Each time a battle is lost or a crop fails, the fools will say Baelor would not have let it happen.
Both the people of Westeros and us fans often put forward this notion of futility preceding his passing, that the blame for all the problems that would go on to plague the realms could be laid at the feet of Baelor's death, and had he not expired at the hands of his brother's mace, the kingdoms would have lived happily ever after. And the Targaryens' dynasty, I'm British, it's dynasty, would slowly but surely course correct over time. But is it based on anything more than wishful thinking? Well, let's take a look at where Baelor could have helped the House of the Dragon stop uselessly flapping its wings as it plummets towards the ground, and where he was just as screwed as any other Dragon King. Heads up, there might be minor spoilers for the following two novels, but it's hard to untangle that, considering everyone's favourite incest goblin loved to history buff his fancy ladies spoilers for HBO's current two shows. So yeah, I'm not sure what is and what isn't, but in any regard, you have been fucking warned. Starting with the goods. We'll begin with the impact of Baelor's heroics at Ashford. In the canon story, they are swept under the rug due to the nature of his death. But news of a living prince standing up for a hedge knight against his own family is likely to spread throughout the kingdoms like wildfire. It's a fantastic PR boost for Baelor, making him a king of the smallfolk with walking proof standing right next to him. Or more accurately over him, as Dunk would have been his man and Egg likely his squire. On the flip side though, before you go thinking this is all fucking roses, if a certain incident we'll address later wasn't a reaction of the gods due to Baelor's death, then a major knock-on effect of Baelor surviving is that Dunk and Egg are possibly dead. For fuck's sake, Tom, this is why you don't ask me to use green sight to fuck with time. Was the last what if, where we ended up killing everyone, not less than enough of this?
We just killed two of my all-time favorite characters.
Now the more general stuff and knock-on effects. Baelor's reign would have been exceptionally productive and prosperous, no doubt. The man was charismatic, wise, and strong. The full hat trick of kingly virtues, not to mention noble, honourable, and just, alongside strong-willed and unafraid to pick up a sword and lead his forces into battle. He ticked nearly every single box on the job application and is remembered fondly as the antipode of Maegor the Cruel. And yep, that counts for something. He's also the offspring of the generation of Targaryens that really understood that for the house to survive, it needed to branch out and forge strong bonds with the greater houses of the Seven Kingdoms and do away with the Golden Boy's exceptionalism bullshit. Baelor himself was half Dornish via his mother and married a lady of the Stormlands. Valar, his heir, married a lady of Tyrosh, which helped expand the reach of the Seven Kingdoms, slowly but surely making the Targs that one relative whose usefulness you constantly question, but then palm off by saying, "Oh, but they're family." I see what you're doing, you sneaky dragon humpers. Don't think I don't. This is important because the Targaryens at this point in time are relying heavily on such political maneuvering and good faith with the big players to stay relevant. And Baelor is definitely the guy you want on the throne to keep this shadow on the wall nice and big, because he understood this. There's also the strong prospect that with Baelor living on and potentially producing more heirs, there's a good chance of the Mad King never making it to the Iron Throne, as he was of X-Line. Thus, maybe a bit less secret restoration of the questionable practice of inbreeding, and thus potentially a little less madness. Thus, way less firewood to light the fires of Robert's rebellion, and potentially extending the reign of the Targaryens far beyond the start of the main series. That's the good, and it's all well and good. Baelor on paper and in practice would be an incredible king. But what about the stuff that's beyond his control? Well, the most pressing concern is that the spring sickness hits. This is a deadly plague that ravages Westeros for about a year, but it does the most damage in King's Landing, killing just under half the population. So that right there is practically a coin flip as to whether or not Baelor dies before he even gets a chance to sit in the throne as king in the first place. It took his dad, possibly his mother, though unconfirmed, and both of his sons. And since he was the hand of the king, he'd have been in the thick of it. So odds are good it might have got him too. This leads on to further problems because it robs Baelor of both of his heirs, meaning he'd need to procreate more to ensure the line of succession followed on from him. Otherwise, it's back to Aerys or Maekar's kids wearing the crown upon his death, and nothing's really changed in the long run. We also have to factor in, which, fair enough, no one else seemed to go mad, but this pandemic may have taken a severe mental toll on Baelor. Having lost his father, his two sons, and having to try and hold a plague-ridden kingdom together, the Targaryens are already not the picture of mental health in Westeros, and people tend to be irrevocably changed by such traumas. The Great Spring Sickness hits the Seven Kingdoms so damn hard, it's tricky, bordering on impossible to even get into Baelor's setup at court, and whether or not it's good souls or snakes in the grass left standing, with only weak Aerys and Charisma Vacuum Maekar as staunch allies. Not to mention Bloodraven and how he and his special brand of, shall we say, shaking things up might factor into all this, even if he's not hand. You know, I find this funny, because George is on record saying Baelor's death is a pivotal turning point in history, but then drops this nuke out of nowhere. A nuke of which Baelor would have most certainly been in the blast zone of, and owing to it having got his dad and his sons, was also unlikely to survive. I don't know, maybe George has taken some of our MacGuffin muffins and planned to feed them to Baelor. Who knows? Check the pantry, Tom. Then there's this quiet elephant in the room that no one wants to speak about when it comes to Baelor's reign and his having a go at fixing the Targaryen name. Hey, that rhymes, Tom. And that is quite simply, the damage has already been done. Many think the Targaryens' inevitable downfall originates with Aerys II, but it began way before that, before even the dance, which is where most people believe, not without good reason, though I would personally push back on a little, the irreversible decline starts in earnest.
Madness and greatness are two sides of the same coin. Every time a new Targaryen is born, he says, the gods toss a coin in the air, and the world holds its breath to see how it will land.
This is said by Barristan Selmy in the books, and is attributed to King Jaehaerys II. There is a reason this phrase exists. To look at Targaryen history is to observe one of the most inconsistent, volatile, and destructive ruling dynasties in fiction. There's never a solid, unbroken chain of good or bad. The bad is really fucking bad. And the good? It's basically the good kings spending most of their tenure trying to clean up the mess made by the bad ones. So they never get a chance to move things forward before the next nutter comes along and starts the cycle anew. When you weigh it up, the good is actually nothing exclusive to Targaryens. There's sod all divine or exceptional about simply doing the half-decent thing. But the bad, the destruction wrought by dragons, the inbreeding stuff and civil wars, etc., is very much their personal hallmark. Because of this, many people really fucking hate them. And kind of always have done, only ever holding their tongues because these fire-breathing fuckers could burn them off. I need not hold my tongue though, for no dragon can burn me. Fuck you, Vhagar. The Lord of Light protects. Doesn't he, man? Now? Shit. Then comes the reign of Aegon IV. We've got a full video in the works for the first Blackfyre rebellion, so I don't want to deep dive here, but let's just say this Targaryen civil war marks the point of no return. The first one does its damage to the name of an already rotting dynasty, but it's preceded by more that really pull the threads of what was left of the jumper that is a metaphor for the people's faith in the House of the Dragon. I've heard many a fan say Baelor could have stopped these following rebellions, but I honestly don't see how. Oh, but he's tactful. Oh, but negotiation. Oh, but he built bridges with bastards. Like his father, who was a good king in his own right, didn't try that already. The root of these civil wars is in Aegon's legitimizing and Bittersteel's stubbornness and ability to strike from a different continent. Two things Baelor cannot influence. If you can't prevent that first filthy, disgusting pretender from sticking that sword in the air and staking his claim, you can't prevent the following uprisings. We should note Baelor was around for the first one, by the way, and as Hand of the King, he had no advice to give his dad that could stop it kicking off. The Blackfyres and their supporters have convinced themselves they are the rightful claimants to the Iron Throne. They're never going to bend over for what they view as false kings and usurpers. Bittersteel continued to pull this shit an additional 3 times himself. His successors have tried it once more, and there's even highly credible theories they're having a 6th bosh at it during the main series. Granted, the Blackfyre support was shrinking with every subsequent rebellion, and by the time of the main series, it sort of resets, and who can tell the difference between a dragon of red or a dragon of black? But point I'm making is the Blackfyres are unwaveringly persistent, and Baelor's tact and overall chadness is enough to put these uprisings down, but not outright prevent them.
Die! Do you Blackfyre bastards! Ah, yeah!
Key takeaway: people are no longer holding their tongues. Exhibit A.
Done the realm of kindness, you'll see that one day. The only good dragon is a dead dragon.
Fucking gods.
And B.
The only honourable thing a Targaryen can do for this realm is finish on his wife's tits.
The resentment has been there, and it has been there long before Baelor was even at the teats of his wet nurse. So let's take it back to the original question in the video. What did the Seven Kingdoms lose when it lost Baelor? The Seven?
There are 9 kingdoms, sir.
Well, actually, the terminology of the Seven Kingdoms preceded the arrival of Aegon and his dragons, as the lands were consolidated under 7 rulers, and in Westeros, we like all things 7. Changing it to 9 fucks with our branding. Are we going to all of a sudden add 2 additional gods? Dunk! Give him a clout round the ear.
The kingdoms lost a great and honourable king, potentially the finest to ever sit the Iron Throne. It lost many, many years of prosperity, security, fairness, and just rule. The realm lost a king it could truly love. But it did not lose its saving grace like many believe. Baelor is one man, with one man's lifespan. And that is simply not enough time to undo the horrendous generational damage of his forebears. And yeah, there's his heirs and descendants to carry on his good works, but we can't say with any certainty his family line would have actually maintained his benevolence and make goods. Since, as we alluded to earlier, the Targaryen lineage is not one of a steady downward trend, but more akin to a chaotic, unpredictable, and inconsistent fluctuation of steep peaks and deep valleys. We know Valar would have been a solid reflection of his father, but he, along with Baelor's other son, die in the plague. If Baelor had more heirs, how they'd turn out is anyone's guess.
Refer back to Barristan's quote.
Perhaps they may have carried on his legacy with similar values.
Eat my shit, you peasant.
Perhaps not. But considering the Targaryen track record, the man should have bought himself a fucking lottery ticket after producing 2 good lads in a row in the first place. And even if his original sons do survive because Baelor's in the picture, for some reason...
I am still alive.
There's no guarantee their kids won't start steering things in the wrong direction. Because again, the proof is in the pudding with the Targaryens' historical propensity to balance out the books of a good king by giving the realm a bad one. As previously mentioned, George himself has stated that Baelor's death and loss is a minor seeming event that is actually a pivotal moment for Westeros and changes its course forever. And I think we can take that to mean Baelor's reign and family line probably does indeed prevent the Mad King, which is a net positive and likely spares the dragons of Bobby's hammer. But how much longer his legacy keeps the dragons limping on after this is anyone's bet. It might gift them a few more decades, it might buy them another century. But given the generational levels of resentment, and in some cases outright hatred, if the spark that lights the self-placed wildfire under the dragon's arses didn't come at Bobby's hand, it would have eventually come at someone else's. Just one bad king in the line, making one bad decision, syncing up with one person strong enough and popular enough to say, "Fuck these guys, it was the dragons we bent to, not these white-haired fucks, let's get them," is all it's going to take. And so yeah, I personally don't think King Baelor could have stopped his house crashing into the ground, merely steered it in a way that prolonged, controlled, and significantly slowed down the descent. But through no fault of his own, and I really want to stress that you can blame this entirely on his most dickheadish ancestors and Aegon's building his dynasty on the foundations of dragons in the first place, point is, this means it's always going to be borrowed time. He's just a man, not the Manis. And that's our take. Do you have thoughts on what a great King Baelor would make? Let us know down in the comments. What did we get right, what did we miss, and what did we get wrong?